You mean the hand that turns everything it touches into gold? From Greek mythology?
Exactly. Koreans really know their Greek and Roman myths.
Of course I wouldn't ask for everything I touch to turn to gold. I've already thought about a specific part of the body where it wouldn't interfere with daily life.
To my surprise, Jang Haeun's gaze turned cold, reminiscent of the time during the new hire orientation when he raised his hand to ask about wish tokens, his suit and hair drenched in blood.
Then why not just ask for 100 billion or 1 trillion won in your bank account?
What? Why waste a one-time wish on that? Besides, paper money turns into worthless scraps if this country collapses. But gold?
Kang Yahak leaned her pony mask closer to Jang Haeun.
Gold never loses its value. Even when diamonds, dollars, and every other currency in the world collapse, gold has never once deviated from its upward macro trend. It's the perfect capital. Let's hear it, shall we? Our batch leader, the fastest to become a supervisor, and the record holder for the quickest point accumulation. Supervisor Rodeer, you agree with me, don't you?
Before I could respond, Kang Yihak continued without pause.
No need to answer, really. After all, you brought gold bars, didn't you? You've just seen how useful gold can be as an item.
That's when it hit me.
Gold is money and money is power. That's the rule in human society.
Kang Yihak wasn't hiding any ulterior motives at all. This person is just absolutely obsessed with money. Sure, most people want to make money, but someone willing to weigh their soul on a scale to sell it off was overwhelming. Perhaps the silver heart and the commercialized atmosphere were amplifying her behavior. But I had a feeling this was her true, unfiltered self. She'd probably harbored these thoughts beneath her friendly demeanor, even before we entered this ghost story. Once we leave this place, I'll make sure to avoid her. For now, I crossed my arms and maintained a neutral expression.
Well, I've heard your point. I wish you success in making lots of money.
First, let's get out of this store. I declined the staff's offer to escort me out, claiming I'd look around a bit more before leaving. As soon as the employees reverted to their floating, disembodied hands form, I rushed out through the back door. The dark alley lined with tightly packed side doors. Who would have thought this bizarre place could feel comforting? Let's complete the objective, then quickly find a relatively safe and manageable alley to finish the remaining steps before the path narrows further. Fortunately, having easily covered 1,000 steps at the boutique, a new alley appeared without much trouble.
Do not give up on your body, remaining steps. 3,999.
The path between the narrow side doors was about the same width as the previous alley, but felt much more manageable.
This place feels oddly familiar, doesn't it?
Dim lamplight flickered softly from utility poles. Under the starlit sky, the glow of yellow light spilled gently from the signs and windows of small shops. It feels strangely nostalgic. The atmosphere resembled a quaint alley in an old residential neighborhood, exuding a cozy and comforting vibe. Of course, letting my guard down here could lead to being lured into one of the shops, where I might end up missing, or worse, losing my sanity.
I recognize this place.
Confirmed sections of Death Lane, 12 Old Shopping District.
This alley was frequently mentioned in the manual and appeared often in exploration logs. It was also considered one of the safer paths. And it happened to be my destination.
Let's move to the next alley.
We stepped into the quaint, nostalgic alley. It was almost deserted. The air carried a subtle, mysterious vibe like Christmas Eve or New Year's night. I walked past the small, modest shops with my colleagues until I stopped in front of one. It was a stationery store. Not the kind with just a few school supplies and toys for students, but one that sold snacks, much like the shops near schools in the 2000s that offered tteokbokki and cheap junk food. I glanced at the display stand. Where oding and tteokbokki should have been, stacks of buckwheat jelly with intricate lotus patterns were piled. And above it, the store sign. This was the store said to sell chocolate bars wrapped in packaging that matched my description. Now that I was here, the tension was mounting. I turned to look at my colleagues. I nearly jumped into the air, barely suppressing my startle. I turned my head to see a white lizard head staring blankly at me from the shadows beside a utility pole near the shop.
How many steps do you have left?
I alternated between glancing at the stationery store and the lizard before finally regaining composure.
Were you waiting for us here?
Yes. How many steps remain?
We have about 3,900 steps left. Have you nearly completed your 10,000 steps, squad leader?
Yes. I determined this alley had the highest likelihood of encountering fellow explorers, so I waited with 500 steps remaining.
It seemed he had anticipated my likely arrival at this stationery store, given that our reason for entering this ghost story in the first place was tied to the snacks reportedly cited here. He almost gave me a heart attack. Still, having him give detailed answers was a relief. My opinion of the lizard as a superior fluctuated between plummeting and rising again.
Wow, squad leader, you're really reassuring. While we're here, could we check out that shop next door to rack up some steps?
The shop she pointed to sold knit goods like gloves and scarves, and it had already appeared in exploration records. She even rattled the coins I'd handed her earlier, as if to emphasize her point. The lizard fixed his red vertical pupils on her.
You have the currency for this place.
Yes. Supervisor Soleum secured it for us. Truly amazing. D-Squad members are all so capable. I've learned so much from you. Ha!
Enter in pairs. Do not engage in activities contrary to the manual. Return to the alley within 10 minutes.
Kang Yihak swiftly dragged Jang Haewon toward the shop selling gloves and scarves. Well, since this alley and shop were relatively low risk according to the records, it made sense for Lee Jaeon to let them go. It worked out perfectly for me. Now I can check out the destination without sharing any secrets. I stood in front of the glass door of the stationery store. Lee Jaeon followed closely behind. I stepped inside the stationery store. Time to find the Good Child chocolate bar. The inside of the store smelled faintly of dust, but it was warm. It had the cozy atmosphere characteristic of an old space. As if living up to its name, Sweet Stationery Shop carried a faintly sweet scent that felt almost comforting. The tension that had stiffened my shoulders began to ease. No, that wouldn't do. I bit the inside of my mouth once and moved forward again. Narrow shelves lined walls like a maze, each one packed with various snacks.
Forget me cotton candy. Taste of the sun chips, reverse bubble chomp gum. Nostalgia candy sold out!
I walked quietly, scanning the snacks with my eyes. I didn't see the Good Child chocolate bar, but I recognized a few familiar names and packages. Some of them were relatively safe and useful. All right, since I'm here, I might as well spend my change. They were decent as items, or I could resell them for some extra income. The last time I parted ways with Agent Bronze, the atmosphere hadn't been too bad. Maybe I could restore my sales route for creepypasta snacks through them. Considering I'd been stripped of everything down to my last gold bar, I needed a way to make money.
You're picking quite a lot, friend. Be careful not to rot your teeth.
I quickly picked out a few snacks. Then I turned to glance at the lizard that had been following me in silence, taking slow, deliberate steps.
Section Chief, is there a snack you'd like to have? I'd like to offer one as a token of gratitude.
Surprisingly, Lee Jae-hyun didn't refuse. After briefly scanning the surroundings, he grabbed a snack.
Reverse bubble chomp gum. Blow it like a balloon in your mouth, and your body will grow as big as a building. Certified original by Cheerful Research Institute. Beware of cheap knockoffs sold at street stalls.
Are you sure about this one?
Did he want to turn into a giant lizard? I pushed down my unnecessary imagination. Holding the selected snacks in both hands, I headed toward the cash register in the back of the store. On the way, I scanned the entire interior again. But the Good Child chocolate bar was still nowhere to be seen. I reached the counter first in the end. The employee sitting at the iron counter gave a slow nod. Likely the store's owner. They wore a sloppy casual outfit and had a hat pulled low over their face. At first glance, they seemed like an ordinary stationery shop owner, but 6 arms tapped against the counter. I made sure never to look at their face and instead carefully placed my selected snacks on the counter. Then, I quickly pulled out my coins. I didn't want any misunderstandings about this being a barter transaction.
Purchased item, carrot? Of course, 1 PC. Cost, memory of the second day of a family trip in 1997.
This stationery shop traded in memories instead of money. From happy recollections that made you smile just by thinking of them, to horrifying traumas you wanted to forget. The type of memory lost depended on the snack purchased. That's why the exploration records ranged from heartwarming to downright eerie. I had no desire to gamble on what I might lose. especially not in this creepypasta world, where every bit of knowledge in my head was crucial. I just need to find that good child chocolate bar. I considered asking the owner directly. However, since the packaging featured something that seemed suspiciously like me, I didn't want to risk drawing unnecessary attention to it.
Kindly tell me the location of the chocolate bar.
I barely stopped myself from grabbing my direct superior by the collar, but the store owner merely pointed to a shelf without a care, still lounging deeply in their chair. So, the illustration on the wrapper wasn't similar enough to me for immediate recognition. I'd seriously settle for having half the liver of a lizard. Maybe I should bought some at the fresh meat butcher shop. Muttering nonsense under my breath, I leaned down toward the counter to collect my purchased snacks and remaining change. There was something behind the counter. A life-size cutout and decorative papers hastily stashed away. A sign, and a blue box filled with chocolate bars.
Theme park collaboration. New product launch. Good Child chocolate bar. Cinnamon churros flavor.
I quickly examined the wrapper. It depicted my hairstyle, mask, and suit far more accurately than I'd expected. Had they removed the promotion display after the event ended? No. It looked more like they had rushed to hide it. I looked at the chocolate bar's packaging again. That product didn't use me as an advertisement model, nor did it decorate the packaging with a character that just happened to resemble me.
Please find this good child. We are waiting for eyewitness reports.
Cold sweat dripped down my back as I took a step backward. I stiffly turned my head to look toward the counter. The store owner was holding the telephone. The ringing sound was connecting somewhere. The moment the call connected, I turned around, grabbed Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun, and bolted.
Here you are! Here you are! Here you are!
I didn't even have time to cuss. I could barely breathe as I sprinted across the store, putting as much distance as possible between me and the counter. I reached for the door I had entered through.
Why are you over there?
I turned my head to look back at the store owner standing behind the counter.
I'm leaving now. Please unlock the door.
The store owner's voice echoed in my ears. From the telephone in his hand, black liquid had begun to drip, pattering onto the floor. The once thin trickle of liquid began to pool together, twisting and distorting midair like clay being molded into shape.
I came to take you back.
Taking the shape of some mascot costume animal I had definitely seen before, somewhere, I desperately yanked on the door handle, but it didn't budge. Damn it, this son of a...
Let go of the handle.
The moment I released the door, Lee Jae-hyun slammed his left fist into the handle. Like a lie, the handle snapped off and fell to the floor. The door burst open with a kick, revealing the alley outside. Without hesitation, we ran. The sound of water mixing with the store owner's enraged voice chased us down the alley. My spine went ice cold.
You seem to be in need of my help, friend.
Lights out for Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun, too.
Even him? Very well. Consider this my gift.
A cheerful snapping sound came from the plush doll, and once again heavy darkness blanketed over me. That familiar sensation of fading away. Lee Jae-hyun's vertical pupils darted toward me.
I'll explain later. Just run!
The sound of water crashing against the alley walls was getting closer. No matter how much I thought about it, I had no way of knowing. The unknown outcome made it even more terrifying. Running was the right answer. Coming here in the first place thinking I could figure something out, that was the mistake. This was a ghost story. Seeking the truth wasn't the way to solve things. It was a shortcut to death in this kind of world. I should have just ignored it and moved on. No, I can regret it after I survive. Don't give up on your body.
Remaining steps. 3,400.
I needed to last 400 more steps. Whatever the next alley is, I have to run that way. From behind, I could hear the alley's residents chattering as the floodwaters swirled around their ankles.
Wow, how fun. What is this?
The mascot is coming in a parade on the water. So fun. So fun.
In Waterland, you can ride the Flume Ride, eat the chocolate bar, and win a trip to Waterland. Let's find the good child.
Wow, the good child?
Cold sweat ran down my spine as I pushed through the ghostly crowd, making my way down the alley. Oh, of course. Even when all the lights disappear, a star remains a star, and a star's fate is to endure their obsessive fans' relentless pursuit. If they know the star's defining features well, wouldn't they only search more persistently for those? I recalled the illustration on the chocolate bar's packaging. I ripped off the mask I was wearing and shoved it into my tattoo. Then, I pulled out a cap and mask, jamming them onto my face. As my movement slowed, the water behind me surged closer. In my lowered gaze, I could see the flood right there at my heels. No, the speed difference was too great. I checked another direction.
Squad leader, the utility pole.
I grabbed onto the nearby utility pole and climbed up quickly. I had never climbed anything so desperately fast in my life. Whether my palms got scraped or not, I had to. Somehow, water surged into the spot where I had just been standing. But I had successfully climbed up to just below the power lines of the utility pole. I steadied my grip, nearly loosening it in relief. Just as I was about to twist my body and brace my legs against the alley wall for stability, my phone slipped out as the screen lit up. It fell into the water surging below. The screen cracked as it hit the stone pavement, and water seeped in, causing the app display to flicker.
Do not give up on your body. Remaining steps, 3,210.
The screen went black. All that was left of my shattered phone was a dark, blank screen. The black, writhing masses in the shape of grotesquely moving mascot chunks filled the narrow, dim alley, peering into the shop windows one by one. My phone was carried away by the current. It drifted along the alley, moving, until it vanished among the crowd following the mascot-like lump. The rushing water brushed past the utility pole I was clinging to, along with my escape route. Frozen in place, I turned my head. Right below me, gripping onto the utility pole with one hand, the lizard extended something toward me. It was his perfectly intact phone screen. Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun had successfully completed his 10,000 steps in this moment. I stared blankly at the navigation screen already activated on Lee Jae-hyun's phone. The lizard held out his phone to me.
Follow the app's directions and escape.
A lifeline had been thrown my way.
The app does not recognize a change in user. As long as you don't deviate from the guided path, you can escape.
I reached for Lee Jae-hyun's phone. I clenched my teeth and refused.
I can't accept this. Section Chief. That strange black water. It was definitely looking for me. It's still searching this alley right now.
I had barely evaded it by removing my mask and suppressing my presence.
If I follow the app's directions, I won't be able to avoid encountering the black water. Because I can't deviate from the path.
While following the app's navigation, do not take your eyes off the screen for more than 3 seconds or deviate from the guided path under any circumstances. Failure to comply will result in being classified as missing. This rule applied just the same on the way back.
So, the probability of me escaping safely without disappearing is extremely low.
For me to have a chance at survival, I needed to hide in another alley first before activating the navigation.
I think finding another way out would give me a better chance of survival.
Lee Jae-hyun's vertical pupils stared at me in silence.
Yes.
So, squad leader, you should take the phone and escape.
Then he turned off his phone. Had this lizard lost his mind?
What are you doing?
I am following the two-person team protocol from the manual.
What kind of nonsense was that?
Then why were you trying to hand me your escape route earlier? You would have been left alone, not in a two-person team.
I followed the priority order in the manual. If you require a more detailed explanation, request it after we escape.
Lee Jae-hyun spoke in his usual flat tone.
From now on, all conversations and questions will have less priority in favor of our survival and return. Mr. Rodeer, devise a new escape plan based on what you know, even if it is not documented in the manual.
I barely managed to answer. We climbed down from the utility pole, and we started walking again. Across the alley floor that had just been swept by the flood, without an escape plan. A person who lost their phone in Death Lane and desperately tried to return to reality. I can say with certainty, I am not the first. The documented a variety of tragic and eerie ends met by such individuals.
For detailed records on employees and civilians who went missing in Death Lane, refer to the document filed as something unknown escape attempt via Alley 16.
For now, let's recall the common premises first. 1. Attempting to blindly follow someone else who is receiving navigation from their phone always ends in failure. The app's navigation could not be shared. Ultimately, every attempt ended with, at some point, the person I was following simply disappeared. As these failures accumulated, people abandoned the idea, and instead started looking for escape hints from within Death Lane itself. A store that promised to open a back door out of the alley if you sacrificed a limb. A passerby who claimed you could escape through a manhole. A shoe shop insisting that if you wore their shoes, you'd see the exit path. Fortunately, I don't have to try all of these methods to reach the conclusion. A cruel truth deduced through inductive reasoning. 2. The residents of Death Lane have no knowledge of the way back to reality. Everything they said was a deception. It was no different from stopping a random office worker in Seoul and asking them directions into a creepypasta. The residents here never had that knowledge in the first place. I need to abandon any expectation or plan of escaping with someone's help. That meant I had to think of an escape method, assuming I wouldn't receive any new hints at all. I forced myself to open my mouth.
I'll brief you on what I've figured out so far.
Now the third premise. 3. From now on, it is impossible to enter new alleys. Normally, for app users, a new alley would appear every 1,000 steps, and they could choose whether to enter it or not. But with my step tracking app broken, that rational system was gone as well. We're trapped in this alley. It was possible the scenery would change as we walked, but we had no control over it. As outsiders to this ghost story, we were fundamentally unable to find the path forward.
Therefore, we must find a way to escape from within this alley.
And now the fourth premise.
Also, we must escape before dawn.
Naturally, most members of this company's field exploration team had nerves of steel. Some even deliberately tried to stay longer in certain alleys, experimenting to see if they could increase the dream essence's grade. There were times when the research team requested this at a corporate level, seeing how long they could last without walking, maximizing the time spent in Death Lane within the limits of their phone's battery. Total communication loss. And this communication loss was not the kind where someone was later found in some grotesque transformation, like the forced laborers at the boutique back alley. It was a complete disappearance. Even a staff member who attempted to stay overnight in an inn, maintaining radio contact with dedicated equipment, ended up vanishing.
Exploration team member. Yes. I've entered a place called the Goldfish Eyes Inn. Just in case, I'll be taking turns standing watch with supervisor something. Exploration team member. What did I pay for lodging? Oh, well, I just used a dead body. That person was already dead anyway, so I put the body to good use. That's all you need to know. Exploration team member. Anyway, I'll try staying up all night. If my dream essence grade goes up, I get proper points for it, right? Exploration team member. The sun is rising. Exploration team member. The sun is burning the alley. It's on fire. Everything's burning. Everyone's running. I can't ask. Connection lost.
I never wanted to experience something like that. This is driving me nuts. Walking through Death Lane without my phone. All these thoughts running through my head. Reality was beginning to sink in, brutally and unmistakably. The fact that I could become just another entry in those records.
Time constraints, spatial constraints, method constraints.
I barely managed to report to Lee Jae-hyun with a calm tone.
Overall, no matter what method I come up with, it will amount to a reckless gamble.
Lee Jae-hyun remained composed as ever.
Aren't you worried about our current situation, squad leader?
No, worrying serves no purpose in resolving the issue.
So basically, as long as I can present my insane idea convincingly, he'll go along with it without a word of complaint. Just like my fellow new hires who had been with me earlier. Lee Jae-hyun had told them to be back in 10 minutes when they entered the shop next door. If they really came out after just 10 minutes, that means they were there when the alley was hit by the sudden torrent. Could they have been swept away and dragged under by the current? When I turned my head, I saw Kang Yi-hak and Jang Hae-won running toward us, waving their hands. Judging by the paper shopping bags in their hands, each adorned with a ball of yarn design, they had successfully completed their purchase.
Ah, Aya, there you are.
Kang Yi-hak beamed with a broad smile.
Looks like your shopping went well.
Ah, yes. The store owner seemed desperate for money. He was so eager to meet our budget, he nearly sold us his own hat. Really, just a fantastic shopping experience.
Then, after a quick glance at Lee Jae-hyun's face, Kang Yi-hak suddenly pretended to check her phone and hastily added,
Oh? Wait, how did so much time pass already? I'm so sorry. You told us to be out in 10 minutes, but we got too absorbed when we found something useful for our exploration endeavors. Truly, our apologies, squad leader?
Her excuse was obviously rehearsed, but at least it was better than nothing. They must have been so engrossed in haggling that they didn't even notice the flood outside. Meanwhile, Jang Haeun, standing beside her, looked slightly pale as he glanced warily at his shopping bag.
Mr. Bison, is there a problem with the item you purchased?
Oh no, it's not that. It's just that, among the things they were selling, some of the yarn wasn't actually yarn. There were these weird strands that looked like veins mixed in. I mean, of course, I didn't buy any of that. Also, thank you so much for the coins, Mr. Rodeer. I'll make sure to repay you in gold once we get out of here.
Come to think of it, shouldn't we be heading out soon? Oh, have you been counting your steps while walking around this alley? Can you share your remaining steps from the app?
Lee Jae-hyun, expressionless, gave an immediate answer. I swiftly and discreetly kicked Lee Jae-hyun's shin at an angle where no one else could see. Then, maintaining a completely natural tone, I said,
We were just walking slowly to check something. Have you both reached your step count?
Oh, we're almost there. We did a lot of pacing back and forth while browsing in the shop.
A bit of a shame, really. We could have checked out 2 more alley options.
Kang Yi-hat clicked her tongue regretfully. On her phone screen, the remaining step count was clearly displayed.
Don't give up on your body. Remaining steps, 1,052.
There was exactly one way for someone who had lost their phone to successfully escape this place. A method recorded multiple times, thoroughly verified, and confirmed as fact. I had almost been presented with a similar opportunity just now, to steal someone else's phone. Supervisor Park Do-jong got into a scuffle with a merchant during a transaction. In the process, he sustained 3 hairline fractures to his left rib and had his phone destroyed, successfully returned after seizing a civilian's phone. I stared at Kang Yi-hak's phone, dangling in the air without protection.
Yes, please return first. Squad leader, would it be all right for them to go back on their own?
I sent my 2 batchmates away.
Well then, we'll head back. Thank you.
Haha, see you at work tomorrow. We can talk more about our spoils then.
The 2 of them walked down the alley and suddenly vanished. They must have entered the next alley. Don't do anything you can't handle. That's an undeniable act of evil. If I went that far, I might not be able to use my silver heart anymore. Even if that weren't the case, if I later realized I could have survived without stealing a phone, my mind wouldn't be able to bear it. Unless it's the absolute worst-case scenario, don't go that far. The moment I crossed that line, my corruption might accelerate. I traced the silver ring I was already wearing, grounding myself.
Oh, Mr. Rodeer, you chose dignity. What admirable restraint. Some guests will resort to the most disgraceful acts just to gain attention. That too is a kind of noble professionalism. But isn't it contestants like you who truly win over the audience?
Though honestly, I'd rather not be compared to that. I took a deep breath, trying not to recall the chaos of the Tuesday quiz show. I was already trapped in a ghost story. I didn't need to relive the time I nearly died in another one. Instead, I focused on combing through my mental records, searching for any clue in this alley that might help. Lee Jae-hyun grabbed me by the nape and yanked me through a shop door. Then, after pulling me inside, he immediately dropped to the floor. We were inside an unmanned laundromat. Beyond the cheap printed glass door, the alley was filling with water, from the narrow gap between 2 residential buildings. Not an alley. Black water seeped through, pooling and congealing into a familiar, mascot-like shape, a slithering dragon character. That doesn't look like the real mascot. Unlike before, it didn't radiate that sharp, intelligent presence, but that only made it more eerie, more menacing. It doesn't look like I can negotiate.
Indeed. Trying to converse with a parade balloon is a foolish endeavor, friend.
The water mass jerkily moved its limbs, its grotesque gait, carrying it back down the alley. Luckily, it didn't peer into the laundromat. Scattered across the damp floor in its wake were chocolate bars, likely washed out of a stationery store during the flood. Then came the residents of Death Lane, the ones entranced by the parade, rushing toward them.
Send me to the cheerful theme park. Let me win.
Let's find the good child. Let's find the good child.
A chaotic mix of pedestrians and merchants swarmed in, tearing open the chocolate bars, desperately searching for what was hidden inside. Probably theme park tickets or membership passes. Just like my tattoo. If they see it, they'll rip my skin off along with it. The classic ghost story scenario flashed through my mind, sending chills down my spine. I opened the glass door slightly the moment the water mass disappeared from view down the alley. Fortunately, the Death Lane pedestrians who were frantically rummaging through the chocolates didn't look this way. I swallowed hard, flicked a coin, and summoned a third hand into the air. The translucent hand crept carefully through the narrow gap of the glass door and snatched one of the chocolate bars that had bounced toward the laundromat from the alley. The moment the third hand came back inside, I quickly grabbed the chocolate bar and stuffed it into my other tattoo. If I'm already stirring up trouble, I might as well gather information to analyze. Thankfully, whether it was due to the silver ring doing its job, I felt no strange hallucinations or noises, nor any fervent craving for the theme park. I'll examine it more thoroughly once I'm back in reality. As I pulled my hand out of my tattoo inventory and deactivated the third hand, I recalled an item I'd been carrying around all this time without trying it even once. The most expensive item in the alien shop.
We can help. Scene 66,000,006.
I took out that item. Right, Braun had said something.
Yes, Mr. Roe dear, you can think of it as an emergency escape.
Considering the price, it felt like I should save it for a higher grade darkness. But with disappearance looming over me, maybe I was better off using it now rather than risking everything. Let's see what happens. Before I pressed it, I showed the button to Section Chief Lee Jae-hin.
Squad leader, this is...
Do you require my advice?
Do you require my advice?
A chill ran down my spine.
You know about this button, squad leader.
Does something bad happen if I press it?
That depends on your perspective.
Could you be more specific?
That is not possible. However, in our current situation, I do not recommend using it.
In the end, I put the button away again. Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun might not say everything he knows, but he doesn't lie. And the fact that he's someone who can also purchase items from the alien shop made me even more uneasy. He's the reason I got the link to the alien shop in the first place, with his account. All in all, forcing the use of this item right now felt like setting up my own grim final entry in the exploration records.
Oh dear, you're not pressing it. I was curious to see what would happen. How disappointing.
A wave of profound exhaustion washed over me. It felt like realizing that a rope ladder I'd thought appeared out of nowhere was just a drawing. Leaning my back against the laundromat wall, I stifled a sigh.
In that case, all our remaining options are shots in the dark.
Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun looked at me. I drummed my fingers nervously on my arm.
Like, maybe if we destroy an entire house, we can create a gap in the concept of the alley and escape. Wait, don't do it.
I quickly stopped the lizard from punching a hole in the wall with his bare hands, then sank down to the floor. Is there really no other way? Either we die or we escape. Is there truly no more reliable option than betting on some extreme long shot? Certainly, the methods for leaving a ghost story. This might work.
There's a way we can try. First, we get out of here and move.
Lee Jae-hyun grabbed my shoulder and pulled me back. Through the laundromat's glass door, I saw a dark shape. A mass of black water.